Ladies and gentlemen, and miscellaneous, a reading from the work in progress, The Fist of God. A narrow alley poured them onto a service lane, a smear of wet asphalt and blue strobe from police 4 blocks away. Their pulse synced to the sirens for a beat and then outran them. "Are all these police looking for us?" Valentina asked nervously. No, probably not," Guy said reassuringly. "There's been a lot going on that you didn't hear about." "Because you were shackled to a chair and being tortured in a CIA kill room," he chose not to say. "Earlier today there was a stage riot at the Capitol building. I didn't have time to tell you about it yet." "There's a lot you haven't told me yet." "Well, when we're not dodging rockets or lasers from outer space, we can sit down and have a real long chat." "What do you mean it was a staged riot?" Sigh. "Well, long story. Short version, I used to work for the CIA. I quit when I found out we were the bad guys." "Oh, don't get me started," she said, holding up a hand. "Guatemalan here." Where did it go? "Yeah, so I escaped, but they tracked me down a few days ago. Wanted me to help them plan this so-called insurrection. I told them to get lost, so they kidnapped you and sent me the video of you screaming to get me to cooperate." "Wait, what?" She stopped and faced him. Guy hesitated, the two of them staring at one another on the sidewalk. "That was because of you?" she demanded. Guy felt the gap widen between them, no longer just a bit of bridgeable space, but now a vast, bottomless chasm. He felt any chance of happiness with this woman evaporate, and with it, all hope. The loss of his home and all earthly possessions was at least tolerable if he could be, even destitute, with the woman he loved. But with her hating him, there was only despair. "Yes," he said finally, "they did it to make me submit, because they knew you're the only thing I care enough about." Valentina's heart ached from hearing the words she desperately wanted to be true, but she hardened herself in case it wasn't, in case it was another lie. And how would they know that? Guy raised his arms in an all-encompassing shrug and then let them fall to slap against his sides. He decided to bare his soul. "Because I've been stalking you online for the past year." She froze, unbelieving, because she'd been doing the very same thing, trying to find him. "I've read everything you've ever posted on Facebook," he went on. "I've gazed in wonder at every picture on Instagram. I think that's how my old employers knew how to get me, even though my VPN bounces off of 30 different places. Since the CIA somehow knew where to find me, they must have also been watching my browsing. They were watching me watch you." She looked up at him with wide, beautiful brown eyes, her heart yearning for him to say something like, "Because I love you," and then leaned down to kiss her again, to crush his trembling lips to hers. But instead, he looked off to one side and said, "Uh-oh." Leading up to the so-called Capitol insurrection of January 6th, the United States had been in turmoil. Peaceful protests had resulted in the burning of cities and the murder of civilians, a result of the shadow government inflaming racial tension. Guy had seen the plans for it years before, the manipulation by the media of black people to create hatred and violence, to use them as cannon fodder in a civil war as an excuse to tighten control and bring about a return to feudalism, to enslave citizens of all colors. This plan had been centuries in the making, the dark design of a clandestine cabal Guy had accidentally dealt a crippling blow to 1 year before. Unfortunately, that cabal had been so well organized that, even without its head, its many tentacles still worked perfectly. Now that plan was in full swing. The beast rampaged in all his horrid barbarity while waving the flag of justice. Now that beast, in the form of 7 men, wandered down the street, smashing the glass of parked cars and upending trash cans, and saw Guy and Valentina. They wore the uniform of the paid protester, the useful idiot, men of all colors dressed in black with the symbol of the anti-fascists, those dedicated to fighting oppression, as long as the oppressors were small business owners and innocent people in the streets. Anyone they could summarily decide were racists, sexists, homophobes, and Nazis. And somehow, though the couple they happened upon was of mixed races, and obviously not racist, the marauders ironically decided they should be punished anyway, probably for their clothes. The disguises they were wearing made them seem more at home in a nicer part of town, meant privilege, for which there could be no forgiveness. Jeering at them, making exaggerated kissing noises, and taunting Guy to, "Go ahead, white boy, get some of that." They spread out in a pincer movement, advancing with a bouncy stride. Guy's eyes narrowed to white-hot slits of rage, his lips peeling away from his clenched teeth. He turned to face them, letting the backpack slide off of his shoulders, and he stepped between them and Val. "Woo-wee! Look at him getting his panties in a bunch. Lord have mercy. What you gonna do, cuz? I'm shaking in my boots." Guy looked beyond them at the flashing police lights and didn't dare fire Priya's pistol, the only thing that could make them scatter like cockroaches. Then they'd never make it to the tunnel entrance on the map with cops bearing down on them. Instead of drawing the gun, he gripped the blue umbrella as if it were a sword. Valentina remembered how he'd fought with another fencing master on that day a year before, watching breathlessly as he toyed with the man and humiliating him, dazzling everyone there with his skill. But this umbrella would surely break. Perhaps if he'd only use it as a stabbing weapon, that metal spike at the end could wound someone, but the fragile shaft would snap like a twig if he tried to parry or slash. He held the handle with his thumb on the ring, in a French grip, and was about to spring into an attack when he caught himself. "Right," he remembered, "you've got a woman to think about." Then he drew Priya's gun, making the 7 men halt, and passed it to Val. She took it in 2 trembling hands. That renewed their attacker's confidence. She didn't even arm it. She must not have known how to use it. They came on. Guy sprang at the second closest one, a wiry man with blonde dreadlocks and a scraggly beard, leaving his flank open to the nearest, a mulatto with a pencil-thin mustache. But he only feinted to draw out an attack from the mulatto and pivoted on his heel to stab the charging man in the solar plexus. Mustache went down, the wind knocked out of him, gasping for breath. They all came at him in a rush, but with a jump, he snap-kicked Goldilocks in the face and reddened his beard. Landing on the slippery road, he wobbled a little, but used his momentum to lean into a lunge and jab the next one in the forehead. The other 4 came up short, hands raised placatingly. Their experience as professional rioters had been limited to the intimidation of non-violent citizens, not kung fu fighting chop-socky heroes with sword umbrellas. They began to back away. Guy couldn't turn his back on them or let them regain their courage, so he capitalized on their hesitation by charging them. Twisting his face into a grimace of fury, baring his teeth in a silent scream, he ran at them and they lost their nerve, turning to scramble back down the way they'd come. He spun quickly and returned to the first 3, kicked one in the back of the knee to make him collapse, stabbed Goldilocks in the side of the head just above the ear, and came in with a backhand to smash the pommel in Mustache's chin as he struggled to rise, knocking him out cold. Then, calm as you please, he checked the brand label on the umbrella, Nanographene. Making that down-curving smile, he said, 10 out of 10, would recommend. He returned to Val, offering her the umbrella in exchange for the gun. She made the trade, trembling, and he impulsively leaned in to plant his lips on hers, leaving her face aflame.